everyone appreciate over here? This dilatation, can everyone appreciate? Abdominal aortic aneurysm. Now, can anyone tell me what is this? Let me use another pen so that it will become clear. What is this part? Kya hai ye? What has happened over here? Very good, fantastic. There's a rupture of the abdominal aortic aneurysm. So welcome students. So today's topic of discussion, as you already know, it is basically competency PA 27.2, which is to describe the etiology, dynamics, pathology, types and complications of aneurysms, including aortic aneurysm. So this is your competency that we are going to understand today. So first of all, we have to understand what is the definition of an aneurysm. So an aneurysm, it is a localized abnormal dilatation, of a blood vessel. It can be a blood vessel or the heart, or it is the heart that may be congenital or acquired. So not only this, but also your heart, okay, also the heart. So also there can be dilatation present in the heart, okay. So aneurysm is not only applicable for the blood vessels, but they are also applicable at the level of the heart, okay. So let us see basic definitions. What are the different kinds of aneurysm? One is that we are having a true aneurysm, one is a false aneurysm, one is your dissection, okay. So let us see what is the difference. So first I am going to read out the definition, then I am going to show you in the diagram. So please pay a lot of attention. So when aneurysm is involving all the layers of an intact arterial wall, okay, or the thinned ventricular wall of the heart, it is called as a true aneurysm. What is the meaning? That all the layers of an intact means all the layers are intact, means the arterial wall is completely intact at the site of dilatation. So the arterial or the ventricular wall should be completely intact. There should not be any damage or discontinuity in the arterial or the ventricular wall. So let us look at this diagram. Can you appreciate? This is a normal vessel. This is a normal vessel. Yes, can everyone see? So now you tell me, what are the three layers? What are the three layers of a vessel? Yes. Yes, bolo kya hai? What are the
adventitia, tunica media, tunica intima.
Yes, so from outer side to inner side, there is an adventitia, then there is a media, then there is a intima, okay. So all these three layers should be intact if I want to say it is a true aneurysm. Is this understood to everyone? Yes. So see over here, this is a true aneurysm. It is a true aneurysm. Why am I saying it is a true aneurysm? First of all, we have to understand why it is called as an aneurysm, because there is a dilatation. Okay, so there is a dilatation. You agree? Everyone agrees? Yes or no? There is a dilatation. Yes, so we agree there is a dilatation. Now, can you see? Can you see the wall? It is completely intact. The wall is intact. There is nothing. There is just a dilatation. The wall is completely intact over here. So that is the good thing over here, that the wall is intact. So if the wall is intact, what do you think it is? It is an aneurysm. It is a true aneurysm. Okay. Similarly, over here, if you see, the dilatation is twofold. The dilatation is over here, as well as the dilatation is on this side. So there is a fusiform like dilatation both sides, and in both sides the vessel wall is intact. So if the vessel wall is intact, if there is a dilatation, I will call it as a true aneurysm. Now true aneurysm can be of two types. If there is just one-sided, if there is just one-sided dilatation, we are going to call it as saccular variety of true aneurysm. And if there is both sides dilatation in the form of a fusiform like this is fusiform, okay, then we call it as a true aneurysm. Then we call it as a true aneurysm. Fusiform variety of true aneurysm. Is this concept very clear about what is the meaning of a true aneurysm? Okay, now we go to the definition of false aneurysm, also called as a pseudo aneurysm. So over here, everything is same like above. That means there will be some sort of dilatation that is there, but there is a defect in the vessel wall. The intactness of the vessel wall is not there. The vessel wall is not intact. As a result, it leads to an extravascular hematoma. There's a collection of blood, and this collection is freely communicating with the intravascular space. That is, it is also called as a pulsating hematoma. Now more will be clear to you over here. Now see over here, this is a case of a false aneurysm. Everyone is watching this. Now look at this. Is the vessel wall intact? Yes, bolo.
No,
Is the
sir.
vessel wall intact? No, the vessel wall is not intact. So what has happened? The blood from here vessel has traveled into this space. Yes or no? It has traveled, and there is a covering over here. This covering is actually made up of extravascular connective tissue. So there is no component of the vessel, no vascular tissue is covering that, just extravascular connective tissue is covering this. Okay, and because it is filled with blood, any tissue or area where there is a localized collection of blood, what do we call it as? We call it as a hematoma. And this hematoma is pulsatile. Why is it pulsatile? It is pulsatile in nature. Excuse me. Why is it pulsatile? Bolo. Why is it pulsatile? Why you think it is pulsatile? Yes, because it is in direct contact with the blood vessels. So absolutely the heart is pumping. That pumping or that effect will be pulsating on this. Okay, so if you see this false aneurysm from outside, they will show pulsations. So there is a pulsatile hematoma. Is this point crystal clear to everyone? Yes. Can I move ahead? Has everyone understood the definition of a false aneurysm? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. Now over here, I forgot to tell you the example. Now let us see the examples of a true aneurysm and example of a false aneurysm. Let us see what are the examples. Now the example of a true aneurysm is atherosclerotic and congenital vascular aneurysm, as well as ventricular aneurysm that follows transmural myocardial infarction. What is the meaning of transmural infarction? Yes, MI is already over. Yes or no? So what is the meaning of transmural? When, for example, there is an infarct which is full thickness involving the whole thickness of the heart, that is called as a transmural infarct. So transmural infarct gives rise to a true aneurysm. Okay, so all these are examples of true aneurysm. Whereas false aneurysm is one when there is a ventricular rupture after infarction that is contained by just the pericardial adhesion. So for example, this is the heart. Okay, this is the pericardium. Whereas the inner layer of the heart over here, because of infarction, it has necrosed and there's a rupture over here. So some amount of blood went and it accumulated over here, okay, in the heart. This is a false aneurysm because two layers are not intact, just this single layer is intact. So whenever there's a ventricular rupture after myocardial infarction that is contained by pericardial adhesion, okay, or a leak is there at the sutured junction of a vascular graft, okay, with a natural artery, then it is called as a pseudo aneurysm. Now, for example, this is one artery, this is another artery. For example, I use a graft to connect this. For example, I'm using a graft over here. In the middle, I'm using a graft. Now, for example, this graft wasn't very true. So what happens? Some amount of blood from here start to come out, and there was a connective tissue lining over here. So this is also a false aneurysm, okay, because there is no true vessel wall intactness. So vessel wall has to be completely intact, and all three layers must be present to qualify it as a true aneurysm. So is it clear what is a true aneurysm? What is a false aneurysm? What is the example of true and false aneurysm? Yes, is it clear to everyone? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now there is something called
Yes, sir.
dissection. Now there is something called as dissection. Now look at what is dissection. Now, for example, in case of dissection, the blood is collecting in between the two layers. So for example, in between the tunica intima and in between the tunica media, what has happened? The blood has collected over here. Can everyone appreciate? This is called as dissection. Iska matlab hota hai dissection. Is it clear to everyone what is dissection? Okay. So dissection and arterial dissection is arising when the blood is entering a defect in the arterial wall and tunnels through the medial or medioadventitial planes. Okay. So dissections are often but not always aneurysmal. What is the meaning of this? It means that dissections, okay, for example, this is an intact vessel. So it is very less likely that an intact vessel will show dissection. Dissection is always seen when there is an aneurysm. So dissection is always accompanied in an artery or that is suffering from aneurysm. Okay, is this clear? Okay, so what is the importance? Why are we reading about aneurysm? Can anyone tell me why is it so important to read about aneurysms? Yes. Yes, because whether it be true, false, or a dissection, all of these can rupture. And if they rupture, what is going to happen? There is going to be a lot of bleeding, and as a result of which, what is going to happen? The person is going to die because of shock. Yes, so it is an absolute emergency to recognize this situation. Now, I have already spoken about what is the meaning of a saccular aneurysm and what is the meaning of a fusiform aneurysm. Okay, is this clear? So I'm not going again. What is it? And remember, whenever there is an aneurysm and there is a collection of blood, there is a stasis. What is going to happen? Whenever there is a collection of blood, when there is a stasis, what is going to happen? Yes?
Platelet aggregation.
There will be clot formation. There will be thrombus formation. Yes or no? So easy to understand. Yes, you have completed this topic, chapter number 4. Okay, hemodynamic circulation. Yes, thrombosis, edema over there. Okay, so any kind of aneurysms can give rise to clot. Okay, just remember. So saccular aneurysms are those true aneurysm which is involving only a portion of the vessel. If only one side is involved, it is called as saccular aneurysm. Okay, it can vary in the size and shape, and often any kind of aneurysm can contain a thrombus. Whereas a fusiform, it is a diffuse circumferential dilatation. Okay, both sided and across the circumference. So it is present throughout the circumference. Okay, this is called as a fusiform dilatation, which is also a type of a true aneurysm. Okay, so generally the size, if you see, they are quite large, around 5 to 10 centimeters, and can involve any portion of the aortic arch, abdominal aorta, and even the iliac arteries. Okay, clear about saccular and fusiform? Now, the second part of today's lecture is the pathogenesis of an aneurysm, which can form a part of the long answer question. Now, it is very simple to understand the pathogenesis. Okay, so now you people tell me, any vessel is having 3 layers or no? Intima, media, adventitia, yes or no? Yes or no? Tell me, what is the importance
Yes,
of these
sir.
layers? Yes. All of these layers are containing certain extracellular matrix component, yes or no? All of them are containing some amount of extracellular matrix which is providing the structural and the functional integrity to the vessel. Okay, so aneurysm will occur when the structure or function of the connective tissue present within the vascular wall is compromised. So if anything goes wrong with the connective tissue lining the vascular wall, then problem is going to arise. Is it clear to everyone? So just let me make it clear. So the defects in any defect which is affecting the connective tissue of the vessel wall is going to give rise to aneurysm. So what are the factors affecting this aneurysm? The first is the intrinsic quality of the vascular wall connective tissue. So whatever extracellular matrix tissue is there, if the quality is bad, it can give rise to, if the quality is bad, it can give rise to aneurysm. So for example, the vessel wall might be weak because of defect in the type 3 collagen synthesis. Okay, for example, that which is seen in Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Okay, so such defects which is found in the vascular variety of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it is associated with poor quality, poor or defective type 3 collagen synthesis. The second important factor is TGF beta. Now, TGF beta is one cytokine. Okay, if there will be excessive amount of TGF beta, this is going to cause decreased amount of extracellular matrix. So any condition in the body because of which there is an excessive amount of TGF beta, that is going to reduce the amount of extracellular matrix, and ultimately it is going to give rise to what? Yes, it was going to give rise to aneurysm. Okay, is it clear? So for example, so whenever there's excessive TGF beta activity, it is going to diminish the ECM and can lead to aneurysmal dilatation. So there are two conditions over here that we have to keep in mind, two conditions where there is mutation leading to an excessive TGF beta signaling. So for example, there is a Marfan syndrome here because of a defective synthesis of the protein fibrillin. This is one of the components of the ECM. So what happens that normally the fibrillin, what does it do? It is sequestering, it traps the TGF beta. It doesn't allow excess amount of TGF beta to go out. But in case of Marfan syndrome, this fibrillin is defective. As a result, there is no trapping of TGF beta, leading to an excessive amount of TGF beta release. That is going to lead to decreased ECM, leading to aneurysm. There is another syndrome called as Loeys-Dietz syndrome. It is characterized by mutation directly occurring in the TGF receptor. Now, without the presence of TGF beta, okay, this receptor is getting activated because of mutation. And ultimately, there is an increased TGF beta signaling. Okay, and as a result of which, there is a decreased amount of extracellular matrix leading to an aneurysm. Okay, just remember these two syndromes which are associated with abnormalities in the TGF beta signaling pathway. One is your Marfan syndrome, one is your Loeys-Dietz syndrome. Now, the third important part in the pathogenesis is, now normally what happens, the extracellular matrix, it is composed of collagen. Yes or no? Everyone will appreciate. Normally, there is some amount, there is a balance between the degradation, and the synthesis of collagen. Okay, so normally there is a balance. These two, they are in balance. Now, if because of some reason, for example, because of some or the other kind of a reason, because of some reason, there's an increased degradation or there's a decreased amount of synthesis. Okay, if there is something, what is going to happen? This is ultimately going to lead to decreased amount of extracellular matrix production. Yes or no, everyone? Yes. So we have to find what are the conditions in which there is an increased degradation. वो कौन से condition है जहां पर degradation is increasing? So any kind of inflammation, what is going to happen? There's going to be an increased amount of inflammatory cells. Yes or no? There will be increased amount of inflammatory cells, and these increased inflammatory cells are going to release certain enzymes which is called as matrix metalloproteases. Okay, it is called as matrix metalloproteases. And what is the function of this MMP? It degrades. It is going to degrade the collagen. It basically degrades the collagen, or it is degrading the extracellular matrix. It degrades the collagen or the extracellular matrix. Is this concept very clear to everyone? Yes. So any condition where there is inflammation like aortitis or atherosclerosis, there will be increased production of an enzyme which is called as MMPs. There's an increased production of the enzyme MMP, which is a matrix metalloprotease. Okay, it is a matrix metalloprotease. And this basically increases, or it causes the breakdown of extracellular matrix protein, especially the collagens. Okay, now there is one other substance called as TIMP. Normally, the role of TIMP, it is to inhibit the activity of MMP. So if any condition, there is a decreased expression of TIMP, that can also lead to an increased activity of MMP leading to this. Okay, so decreased expression of TIM or increased expression of MMP secondary to inflammation, okay, leads to this. Okay, now for example, there is one very important, in case of abdominal aortic aneurysm, there is a shift in the production of certain cytokines. So there's an increased production of T helper 2 cytokine, that is interleukin 4 and interleukin 10, and both of them, they increase the amount of MMP activity, leading to an excessive breakdown of extracellular matrix. Is it clear to everyone? More is the inflammation, more is the release of MMPs, and more is the risk of degradation of ECM, and more is the risk of development of aneurysm. Similarly, decrease is the expression of TIMP, increased activity of MMP will be there. Okay, I hope this point is clear to everyone. Yes. Now the last thing is, the last thing that can occur is there is a decreased synthesis of extracellular matrix. That is, the extracellular matrix is synthesized in very less amounts. Okay, now why that can happen? It can happen because of ischemia. There's a decreased blood supply to the collagen fibers. Because of that occurs secondary to atherosclerosis. Sometimes the lumen, for example, this is a normal lumen. In hypertension, the lumen might be narrowed. So systemic hypertension can cause significant narrowing of the arterioles of vasa vasorum. Now, can anyone tell me what is vasa vasorum? Yes.
Vessels which supply the vessel wall.
Very good. Fantastic. Okay. So if the vessels themselves are getting less amount of, they are receiving less amount of blood flow, that means there is a ischemia. So systemic hypertension can also lead to decreased ECM synthesis. And one very rare cause which was seen in the past, but it is not seen now, is tertiary syphilis also. Okay. Over here also there is obliteration. That means in all these three reasons, the basic thing is decreased oxygen supply because of reduced blood supply. Ultimately, what happened? That there is a decreased growth of the extracellular matrix leading to aneurysm. Is this concept crystal clear to everyone? All the four basic histological process, or I should repeat in short, all the pathological process. Yes, everyone. Yes. Will you be able to write this in your exam? These 4 points. These are the 4 most important points that you have to remember for your exam. The first is that the quality of the extracellular matrix is bad. The second is because of an excessive amount of TGF beta signaling. Third cause is because of increased amount of release of MMP, which is causing degradation of collagen. And the last is decreased synthesis of extracellular matrix. So the pathogenesis has to be discussed under 4 headings that I have already explained in details. Clear? Now, all this pathology that we have led, ultimately, if you look under the microscope in the histopathology, there is one common thing that we observe in case of aneurysm, that there is a medial degeneration. That is, the tunica media has degenerated. Now, how do we understand? Now, over here, we have used a special stain, which is going to highlight the elastic tissue. Okay. So this is the normal. This is the normal vessel. Now, can everyone appreciate that there is a normal, regular, blackish? Okay. Can you appreciate this black? Okay. This black is nothing but it is the elastin. This is the elastic tissue. So normally there is a regular pattern of laying down of elastic tissue. In case of aneurysm, for example, they have given an example of Marfan syndrome. Over here, can you see there are spaces that there is no presence of elastic tissue? Can you appreciate this part?
Yes, sir.
Over here, if you see, over here, if you appreciate, over here, there is a regular arrangement. Over here, can you see any irregular arrangement? Can you appreciate some areas which has no elastic tissue? So we have used a special stain which is highlighting the elastic tissue present in the vessel. And it was seen that the regular arrangement is gone. And there's a masked degeneration, fragmentation of the elastin. And there are many areas like this which is devoid of any elastin. Okay, so this is basically the marked hallmark, histopathological hallmark feature of aneurysm. That is, there is marked medial degeneration. You will remember this MCQ. Yes, it is very important to understand. So the 2 very important cause of aortic aneurysm is number 1, atherosclerosis, and number 2 is hypertension. Now, atherosclerosis is a much greater factor, okay, or it is playing a much greater role in abdominal aortic aneurysm. So I'm writing over here, atherosclerosis is having a much bigger role in abdominal aortic aneurysm. Okay, whereas hypertension is playing a much greater role. Hypertension is playing a much greater role in ascending aortic aneurysm. Hypertension is playing a much greater role in ascending aortic aneurysm. Is this concept crystal clear to everyone? Yes. So we have already seen that there are certain inherited deficiencies like in Marfan syndrome, like in Loeys syndrome, in different kinds of syndrome we saw. Now, for example, there are certain other risk factors that can also weaken the vessel wall. What are those? These are contributory environmental factors like advanced age, smoking, any trauma, vasculitis, that is, there's an inflammation, congenital defects, or even infections like fungal aneurysms, mycotic aneurysms. Okay. Now remember, mycotic, what is the source of this infective mycotic agent? So there might be an embolus of a septic embolus, can give rise to this. Usually from an infective endocarditis, from a infected valve, it can arise. Secondly, because of an extension of any nearby process that is taking place. And lastly, circulating organism directly infecting the arterial wall can also give rise to an aneurysm. Okay. So this is all about the general aspects of aneurysm. Now we are coming to abdominal aortic aneurysm, which is the most important aspect for today's lecture. So let us read about abdominal aortic aneurysm. Now, aneurysms occurring as a consequence of atherosclerosis is most importantly, it is affecting the abdominal aorta as well as the common iliac artery. This is a very important MCQs. Over here, if you see, I have already mentioned aneurysms affecting the abdominal aorta usually occur secondary to atherosclerosis. So this concept should be very clear to everyone. Now, a variety of factors that we have already read can weaken the media and predispose to the aneurysm. But remember, abdominal aortic aneurysm most commonly occurs in men and most commonly occurs in smokers, and it rarely occurs before the age of 50. So it is not very common before the age of 50. Okay. And atherosclerosis, it is a major cause of abdominal aortic aneurysm. Okay. But other factors can clearly contribute as well. Okay. So remember, the most important factor for the causation of abdominal aortic aneurysm is what? Atherosclerosis. Okay. Now, if you look at the morphology, okay, so it is usually, remember, if you look at the morphology of abdominal aortic aneurysm, usually if you look, okay, this is the bifurcation of the aorta, for example, and over here, for example, your renal vessels are going, renal arteries are going. So it is at this region that your aneurysm is going to lie, between the renal arteries and the bifurcation of the aorta. Now it can be saccular or it can be fusiform. I have told you what they are, so I'm not saying to you. Usually it is more than 3, but most often it is more than equal to 5.5 centimeters and can go up till 25 centimeters. So this length can go up till 25 centimeters, but usually it is more than 5.5. Okay, so if you are going to see, if you can open this vessel, you are going to see areas of atherosclerosis. That abdominal aortic aneurysm is classically complicated by atherosclerosis, and there is a medial degeneration. I already told you. So the media will be quite thin. And this aneurysm, so any area which is dilated and which will show collection of blood, there will be what? There will be collection of thrombus. Yes or no? Yes. Now, what are the other vessels which can be affected? The renal vessels, superior and inferior mesenteric arteries can also be affected. Okay. And at any place where there is an ostia or there is an opening, that can also be affected. Now, abdominal aortic aneurysms can be of 3 types. One is your inflammatory abdominal aortic aneurysm. Okay. Then you are having IgG4 related aneurysm. And lastly, we are having mycotic abdominal aortic aneurysm. The most common and the best known variety that we can see is over here is the inflammatory variety of abdominal aortic aneurysm. It is accounting for just 5 to 10% of all cases. So it is typically occurring in young patients. So as I told you, abdominal aortic aneurysm usually occurs at more than 50 years of age. Okay, if it occurs less than 50 years, in that case, think about the inflammatory variety of abdominal aortic aneurysm. So usually these patients are young patients presenting with a back pain and elevated inflammatory markers. So can anyone tell me what are the inflammatory markers that we use in day-to-day basis? Yes.
CRP.
Fantastic. CRP, ESR is one which we are using. Now, this inflammatory aneurysm, if you will see, they are characterized by abundant lymphoplasmacytic inflammation along with infiltration by macrophages. Okay, and there will be a lot of scarring also. Now, what is the cause of inflammatory variety of abdominal aortic aneurysm? The cause is because of a localized immune response to abdominal aortic wall. So there is some autoimmune response or some immune response is there to the abdominal aortic wall. Okay, and it is mainly localized in the abdominal aortic wall, and such inflammation it is not seen in any other artery. Just it is seen in abdominal aortic wall. Okay, now if you see over here, this is an abdominal aortic. Okay, so can everyone appreciate over here this dilatation? Can everyone appreciate abdominal aortic aneurysm? Now, can anyone tell me what is this? Let me use another pen so that it will become clear. What is this part? Kya hai ye? What has happened over here? Very good, fantastic. There's a rupture of the abdominal aortic aneurysm. Fantastic, very good. बहुत अच्छे. Over here, if you see, now very important is this, what I want to show you over here also, they have cut open over here. I want to show you what is this part. Let me use another pen.
Thrombus.
Very good, fantastic, very good. This is a thrombus that has formed. Why thrombus has formed? As I told you, there's a saccular dilatation, blood can collect, so mural thrombus can form. Yes, very good, fantastic. So this is very simple to understand. Okay. Why have I shown you? Do not forget to write the complications like the rupture and formation of thrombus. And if the thrombus is there, what is going to happen? There's going to be embolization also. Yes or no? Okay. Now we are going to see another subset, a subset of inflammatory variety of abdominal aortic aneurysm. It may be a vascular manifestation of a disease called as IgG4 related disease. It is one group of condition or one disease disorder having certain features, and such individuals with such features, they are associated with one type of abdominal aortic aneurysm which we called as IgG4 related abdominal aneurysm. Okay, IgG4 related abdominal aneurysm. Now over here, if you see, it is marked by increased levels of IgG4 in the individual, in the plasma of that individual. You will see increased amount of this is there. Along with that, there is fibrosis in that individual also in affected tissues. Now it might affect a host of organs. Multiple organs can be involved in, including pancreas as well as thyroid, as well as other vascular sites, including ascending aorta and heart vessels. So it is some kind of a systemic disease in nature, and it might be associated with retroperitoneal fibrosis along with bilateral hydronephrosis. So there are a bunch of other conditions associated with this IgG4 related disease, and inflammatory variety of abdominal aortic aneurysm, some part of that might be associated with this. So some individuals with inflammatory variety of abdominal aortic aneurysm might show a raised level of IgG4, and they might be associated with IgG4 related disease. And lastly, mycotic abdominal aneurysm. These are lesions where infection is playing a very important role. So circulating microorganisms, they can directly go and cause aneurysm. Okay, they can cause pathogenesis and aneurysm. And in this case, the suppuration or the necrosis that is happening, it will destroy the media, and it is going to lead to rapid dilatation and rupture. So in all cases, if you are going to see, it is the medial degeneration which is classically seen. Okay, so these three so we have seen the classic variety of abdominal aortic aneurysm, and we have also seen the other variants of abdominal aortic aneurysm. Okay, let us look at the clinical features. Now most of them, they are completely asymptomatic, and they are discovered quite incidentally, okay, on physical examination as an abdominal mass, mostly a palpable pulsating abdominal mass that simulates a tumor. Now, the other clinical manifestations of abdominal aortic aneurysms include rupture. So I told you the complications kya ho sakte hain. There can be rupture because the wall is weak, so it can break, and there might be hemorrhage. Sometimes it might lead to obstruction of a branching vessel. So for example, a vessel was opening over here. Now, because of this getting like this, dilating, it might cause obstruction of a vessel. Now, because there is dilatation, there will be collecting of blood. So there's a thrombus formation, and this thrombus can do what? It can break and go somewhere else. So there might be embolization, or it might become more, and it might put pressure on nearby organs. So there can be impingement on an adjacent structure. For example, an expanding abdominal aortic aneurysm might compress a ureter, or it might erode a vertebra as well. So let us see what is the risk of rupture. Very important MCQ. The risk of rupture is directly related to the size of the aneurysm, varying from nil for abdominal aortic aneurysm, which is less than equal to 4 centimeter in maximum size in diameter. Diameter is this. If you see, this is the diameter. Excuse me. To 1% for amniotic abdominal aorta aneurysm between 4 to 5. So if the diameter is between 4 to 5, so over here the risk, just let me show you like this. Okay, this is the diameter. So if the diameter is approximately less than equal to 4 centimeter, the risk of rupture is nil. If it is between 4 to 5, the risk of rupture is 1% per year. If it is between 5 and 6 centimeter, the risk of rupture becomes very high to the tune of 11%. And if it is more than 6 centimeter, the risk grows at 25% per year. So the risk of rupture per year is increasing in this manner. This is a very important and hot MCQ which is asked every year. Okay, most aneurysms, they expand at the rate of 0.2 to 0.3 centimeters per year. Okay, just remember this. Now remember one very important thing, that in general aneurysms more than equal to 5 centimeters are managed quite aggressively. Okay, so what are the treatment options that we are having? We can give certain grafts. So for example, if this is a dilated part, what we can do, we can place a small graft over here like this. Okay, some mesh will be there like this, which is going to provide support to this part. Okay, this you can do. So we can use an endovascular approach to do this via the femoral artery. That particular stent, that is the graft stent, can be introduced. Okay, now very important is the timely surgery is very important, because for example, if the aneurysm has not ruptured, then the mortality rate is 5%. But if the aneurysm has already ruptured, for example, the rupture has already taken place, the mortality rate occurs at the tune of 50%. Okay, so just remember one thing, because atherosclerosis is a systemic disease. Okay, therefore a patient with abdominal aortic aneurysm is very likely to have atherosclerosis in other places also, and it is a significantly increased risk of ischemic heart disease as well as a stroke. Okay, just remember this. So what is the importance? That patients who are presenting with abdominal aortic aneurysm, they are comorbid. Okay, they have systemic disorders. Okay, so with this we have completed the abdominal aortic aneurysm. Now lastly we are going to see thoracic aortic aneurysm. Now remember, thoracic aortic, the only important cause over here, that is it is most commonly associated with hypertension. And other syndromes associated with thoracic aortic aneurysm includes Marfan syndrome, Lloyd-Dietz syndrome, and inflammatory conditions like aortitis. Okay, so just remember, before a person is going to have rupture, okay, rupture or dissection. Okay, so before dissection or rupture, what are the very important signs, symptoms that we have to understand? There can be a chest pain because of encroachment or erosion of any bone. Patient can have ischemia because of compression of coronary artery. There might be difficult swallowing because of compression of the esophagus. There might be hoarseness of voice because of irritation of the recurrent laryngeal nerve, or there might be respiratory complication because of compression of the bronchi. So all these important complications are associated with your thoracic aortic aneurysm. Okay, so is this completely clear to everyone? Any doubt? Yes, any doubt, anyone? We have completed this lecture in detail. So I'm going to post this particular PowerPoint in the group today. Please go and read this topic and be prepared for your exam, because this might be a potential question for your exams. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone.